We're back. We're in an informal session on May the 13th, and we're going to talk about Ohio Checkbook. With us, we have Spencer Gross from Treasurer Josh Mandel's office. And proceed.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm Spencer Gross from Treasurer Mandel's office, here to talk about OhioCheckbook.com. OhioCheckbook.com is the nation's leading transparency website. It was recently named #1 in the country after we were 46th in the country the year previously by the U.S. Public Interest Research Group. We have managed to place over $408 billion in spending online by individual transaction. You'll see over 112 million transactions on here, totaling 3.9 billion pieces of spending information. We are going to offer OhioCheckbook.com to local entities as well, which is why I'm here to sort of show you how you can put your checkbook online as well. But to start, I'll just show you the state site. This is OhioCheckbook.com, our landing page. As you come to the first page here, what you're going to see is fiscal year 2014 state spending. All of these charts are clickable, and you can drill down into each of them. This is the year-over-year state spending, so you can see sort of the valleys and peaks of state spending over the years. Largest expense types of 2014, medical service providers, lots of Medicaid and that kind of thing, and then United Health Group as the corresponding largest paid company. Shelley and Sands, I believe, does a lot of stuff for ODOT, so they were one of the highest paid companies. We have created a contextual style search bar. So the treasurer wanted the checkbook to be something that folks could search and wasn't just a PDF of their spending. So what we have here is we call it a Google style search bar because, as you'll see, if I want to know what the Arts Council spent giving out grants to local theater groups and arts groups and that kind of thing, if I type in arts, it's trying to help me figure out what I'm looking for. So it's going to pull up agencies, expense types, funds, appropriation line items, programs, vendors with the word arts in it, all these things just to help folks figure out what they're looking for. So I will click Arts Council here. And what this is going to do is bring up the Arts Council's 2014 spending, $10.8 million. I'll click on Subsidies and Shared Revenue and drill down into the grants that they've given out. And underneath is the corresponding checkbook information for that 10.8 million, or for that let's see, how much was that actually? 8.9 million that they'd given out in grants. I can organize this checkbook ledger by date. I can organize it by alphabetically who was paid. I can see more. I can do it by highest dollar amount, but I'll click one I believe I found before I came in here was the Clermont Philharmonic Orchestra. And I can see that on 8/26/2013, the Arts Council paid them $2,838. I can take that a step further and actually click this, and it's going to bring up a check representation. So each of these representations is going to house up to 35 pieces of spending data. That's where we get the nearly 4 billion pieces of information off the 112 million transactions that we have. We can see who the agency that paid the Clermont Philharmonic Orchestra was, the date, the actual check number, how much money it was. We can see down here who's getting paid, the vendor city, vendor information, where the money came from, out of what fund, appropriation line item, program. All of these are clickable. I can click each one of these just to drill down even further into that, just more context that we've added. If this information is not enough to satisfy what you're looking for, we provided some contact information here. So just a quick hyperlink to an email, phone number, snail mail. We are also able to click whatever is in this line here, and it's going to bring up a new tab where I can see how much money the Clermont Philharmonic Orchestra has received from the state dating back to 2008. And again, all these are clickable. I can redraw these if I'd like to into a stacked bar or a pie chart, whichever I would like. I can share this information. I can print this to a PDF for commissioner meetings, quick, one-pagers I want to hand out to the public, that kind of thing. I will go back front here. This is kind of the reset button. Sort of just wipes the slate clean, takes us back to the home page. Next, I will search for a specific expense type. So if I want to know how much the state spent on bulldozers in 2014, I can click bulldozers here. Again, helping me figure out what I want to look for. I can see that they spent $292,000 on bulldozers in fiscal year 2014. Now, I'm not a bulldozer expert. I don't know if that's a lot or a little to spend in a given fiscal year. So what we've created is a year-to-year button here. And in one click, I can see what the state has spent on bulldozers going back to 2008. The reason everything goes back to 2008 is because that's when our Uniform Chart of Accounts was created, the OAKS accounting system for the state. So that's just how far we can go back. For you all, you could go back as far as you'd like. You can go back a couple of years. You may not be able to go back to 2008, but if you'd like to, you have that option.
So back on the dollar amount that you showed, can you tell me how many units that is? How many bulldozers?
Let's see. That we'll be able to look at that information. In terms of the actual check here. So how many bulldozers? I'm not sure. That would be a question that you would have to pose to Thomas Johnston at the Department of Natural Resources. Okay. How many that actually bought. So I can click this year-over-year button again. It looks like in 2012 and 2013, there's no information there. So I can just click these and get rid of that and clean up this chart. If that one is, too much of an outlier for me to want to look at, I can do that. I can easily bring them back as well. Just more context, more flexibility and interactivity in the site. And lastly, I'll show you our ability to not only compare expense type over time, but expense type over time over multiple agencies. So if I want to know how much the Department of Taxation spent on IT equipment, I'll go through. I can click equipment. IT equipment. Looks like they spent $7.2 million that year. Again, don't know if that's a lot or a little. I can click here. Looks like they may have done some upgrades. What we've created here for multiple agencies is this compare tool. Now, at the county level, we don't envision you guys being able to compare county to county because you don't have the same chart of accounts and it would be comparing apples to oranges. But just to show you the horsepower that the site has, we think it's nice to show. And it could be used interdepartmentally as well, which is kind of what we use it for at the state level. So we will compare across. So we have fiscal year 2014, IT equipment, and I can select up to 9 other agencies. So I'll select some ones that are similar in the do ag, commerce, education, insurance. I'll do public safety. That'll do. And then just click compare. So it looks like the Department of Public Safety spent $11.2 million on IT equipment that year. If we thought 7.2 was a lot. But this may not tell the entire picture because some of these agencies are a lot larger than others. So their budgets are larger. So what we created is a percentage button here. I can see what percent of their overall spending was spent on IT equipment. And it sort of levels out the playing field there. So just, again, another level of context to be able to just compare this information. Toggle back to the money. And if I want to know what these agencies spent over multiple fiscal years in multiple agencies, I can simply click the year-to-year button again, and it'll easily bring that information up for me. That, for me, is too hard to read. I'm going to redraw this into a line graph. Very quick, very easy to do. If I want to get rid of this outlier here, I can get rid of this. I can kind of clean up this graph to tailor it to whatever I'd like, and then just easily bring the information back in at any time. Again, this can be printed to a PDF. You'll just see basically exactly what you see on here, minus the edit compare tools. Let's see if I can bring this up. There you go, and you have a printout to take to meetings, show constituents, whatever you'd like.
Just for fun, could we look at telephone service across
Sure.
the state?
Let's see. I will look at
Telephones,
telecommunication expenses.
telephones and central systems,
All right. Wired or wireless?
wired.
Wired. Okay. Oops, let me hit the reset button again on that. So this breaks it down. Looks like $2.3 million. This is showing 1.9 million of it. If I click others, that's where the remaining 402,000 will go. So it'll just break down into a smaller chart. I can continue to break down into smaller charts, continue to break down into smaller charts, as far as it'll let me go. So you can kind of have fun just, drilling down and searching for things. You kind of get lost in it. But
So back to year, all departments?
this is for the state. If I want to do the year-to-year, I would compare across all those departments again, like I did with bulldozers.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And as I was telling Commissioner Ubel before, we have partnered with a Silicon Valley-based tech company called OpenGov, who will be providing services to the local level. We are going to be footing the cost for that. The treasurer's cut $6 million voluntarily from his budget over the years. We're going to be using a fraction of that to pay for local entities to have their checkbooks online. The start date for that we envision being June 30th. Hopefully it will be before, but by June 30th, we believe the onboarding process to be able to take your data information and place it into a website and be able to see it should be done by June 30th.
So if we give you by June 30th the go-ahead that the commissioners like this and we'd like to have it done for Clermont County, how long would it take you to have it up and running?
If we got it by June 30th, probably by July, we think it should be able to be put online. We partnered with OpenGov because they're very good at what they do. They have currently, I believe, around 300 entities across the United States, going from the city of Los Angeles down to a parks district in Minnesota, and everything in between, universities, cities, townships, villages, all that. And they have folks that are dedicated specifically to taking financial information, placing it in the format that they need to present it in a fashion like this.
And how often would we refresh the data?
As often as you'd like. Some folks have said, some of the smaller townships we've spoken with that have raised their hand and said, we'd like to do this, maybe have a part-time fiscal officer and they could only do it once a year. And we think that's great. If you would want to do it once a month, quarterly, every 6 months, whatever you want to do, it's totally up to you.
Okay, daily?
You could. Yeah.
On the current treasurer's website, I think you offer the old system that you had before this, which allows people to go back and look at salary by employees at the state level. How would you do that from the new system?
So the salary is something. I'll show you what. I'll just go to the treasurer's office here, and I'll show you what salary would look like on the checkbook. So essentially we have our budget here, and then we have payroll expenses. As you click down, you won't see individual checks with folks' names on it. What you'll see here is something like agency journal. So we've taken the names off of salary checks for individuals, but we have a separate salary database with folks' names on it. State employees that receive any salary from the state are listed on that, not on this. Basically, the reason is because we don't want a lot of people's names on this for confidentiality reasons. There are some Medicaid checks that are written out to folks. We wouldn't want people's names on that. So for that reason, as soon as we got any hint of something that may be considered confidential information, we just erred on the side of caution and got rid of it.
So for the county level, would that be the same case? We'd
Yes, yeah, we would.
sterilize the names.
Yes. The names, they're just not going to be on the website. Yeah.
Chuck, I know you did that presentation about this with Munis, and this would dovetail in with that?
Well, I'm not sure if dovetail.
Well,
They're,
interface.
you know, they're two separate, they're two separate modules. I think, first of all, I think this is great.
Thanks.
I looked at your first one, and this is,
Yeah.
it's light years more than that, so I think it's great.
Spencer, I don't know if you know the people in the room, Chuck Tilbury with the auditor's office.
Okay, great. Yeah,
His
we've
office.
spoken. Yeah.
I spoke on the phone.
And Connie Bear with Treasurer True's office,
And our Office of Management and Budget, which is Mary
Mary Raines.
Raines.
Good deal.
Is there a contract on this?
There won't be a contract. There will be a terms of service. Because you're not going to be paying anything for it, there won't be a contract per se, but there will be sort of there's a terms of service that's like 5 things, basically, that says, we're giving permission for this to be published. This information is, accurate to the best of our knowledge, that kind of thing.
I know the concern in many counties
Mhm.
and entities in the state that it's a lost leader. You're getting them in and then coming back a year from now and starting to charge. So is there any provision that you're going to be for 5 years? You're going to be no cost for 5 years or 10 years or that?
It's a good question. I can tell you that as long as Treasurer Mandel is in office, this will be provided for free for local governments. We are currently working in the legislature right now, in the Senate actually, on a bill that would codify that state treasurers, after Mandel leaves, have to maintain the state checkbook, and we would hope that will pass. It passed 86-0 in the House, and we're working on it in the Senate very hard.
I'm a little confused on, the open checkbook does not have, on the payroll side, does not have names.
Correct.
But you also have a database, a supporting database on your website that
Yes.
does have the names.
Yes, so that's part of the larger transparency project. So if I click that, it'll open up this link, and this is just the sort of umbrella transparency site, and this is the state salary search here.
But that does have names and.
Correct.
And so, what was the reasoning for putting it on there but not on the open checkbook?
Right. Because the open checkbook site has checks from, things that could be, sort of state assistance type checks for Medicaid,
Right.
for JFS, for anything. We just blanket said we're not putting names, period. Just to err on the side of
But
caution.
you do have that capability on your other site that you can wipe those out or you can.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So the salary side is only employees, not Medicare, Medicaid, or other?
On the state salary database, yes, but on the checkbook, there will be no names. Yeah.
And it's probably because it's hard to identify them.
It becomes a difficult
Both
thing.
places. We did it once, we figured out who our employees are. Yeah, okay.
Because you're dealing with OpenGov.
Mhm.
Is there any, and you've got Delaware that you signed up now.
Yes.
But the concern is, as far as the effort, the county effort,
Mhm.
as far as the importing of the data or the upload of the data.
Sure.
The effort
Mhm.
on that. Has OpenGov given you any type of feedback on that? The upload of the data, and then also the customization of that to a specific entity or county. If we want it different than this.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the feedback on that?
We are definitely going to have it very customizable. So the mock-ups I've seen of the site, it truth be told looks a bit cleaner than this, I think even. It will have your county logo up here. It will have sort of a year-over-year bar graph at the top with corresponding checkbook information underneath it. So that will be totally customizable. We want it to be your site. In terms of the uploading process, I'm not sure what accounting system you use. Munis. Okay. So Munis, I believe you have the capability to export into Excel. So you'll run pretty much a fund summary and a payment summary for the year or for the quarter or whatever, and then you'll just shoot that along to OpenGov and they format it into the site. We wanted to make this as little work for local governments as possible because we understand you guys have, a limited staff and a limited amount of time, and
Because of the name on the checkbook,
Mhm.
I'm assuming you're focusing on the expenditure side.
yes.
Is there any thought of adding the revenue and budgetary?
Right. That, yes, OpenGov currently has that capability, but for the purposes of making this a free product for you, what we'll be able to provide is a checkbook ledger. I know that there are other entities that have raised that and said we'd be willing to pay a bit more on top of this to make sure that we can get our revenue and budget up there. So if that's something that you really wanted to do and wanted to pay a bit extra, and I believe we've negotiated a discounted rate to make that happen, then that's a conversation that you could have with OpenGov as a private company, not with us.
I think as a side note, if I can take liberty.
Right ahead.
This is a side note, that's one of, Clermont County has been looking at this for a couple of years.
Mhm.
The auditor's office is particular, this type of transparency
Mhm.
module. And it's for those reasons to incorporate all the components in it.
Sure.
And I think, I know that Treasurer Mandel was quoted in the Columbus Dispatch last week that he thinks there's a lot of boss hogs out there with something to hide. That's not Clermont County.
Sure.
So I think he's misrepresenting, it looks like you're pushing people in or embarrassing people into this, and that's not Clermont County. We're trying to do the right thing.
Sure, and totally understand.
And look at whether or not there's a minimal cost to another alternative to this, but we're certainly not trying to hide anything.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from on
I
that.
know
Yeah.
Treasurer Mandel's enthusiasm.
We adopted, Munis has a package that is open information.
Right.
Mhm.
And
If we adopted that as our county open checkbook, could we get a link from your site to that as if it were put up by OpenGov?
Are you saying, could you on the Clermont County website provide a link to open up?
No,
The-
backwards. Would your website provide a link to our data that was generated internally here? That was similar, very, very similar, but included not only expenses, but revenue?
It's a good question. I'm not entirely sure about that. I've never been asked that. I can find that out for you, though.
Okay.
Chuck, if there's some boss hogs out there, I'd hate to think that we're the Dukes of Hazzard up here, so. But Spencer, thanks for coming down from.
Sure thing.
Columbus
Yeah,
to
thanks
do
for having
this,
me.
And Marcy joining him as well, but it's truly refreshing to see this transparency movement here in the state and to see Treasurer Mandel kind of continuing with it. And that's great. It's always nice to see whenever you can empower taxpayers, which I think we all need to do more of in the future.
Great.
And the fact that we can get this free of charge, it's a win-win. So, thank you.
It's almost like it's an open report to all the stockholders in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea that we be as transparent as we can. I think all three of us up here are for that, as well as the
Absolutely.
treasurer and the auditor, so our county wants to be transparent.
See, the thing is, though, it's not that,
It's a matter of how to approach it.
we definitely don't have anything to hide.
Oh, yeah,
We have a lot we want to brag about,
exactly.
and that's what this does as well.
Exactly, and we've run into a couple situations where it'll be a new treasurer, a new auditor that's taken over from they've kind of inherited a bit of a mess and cleaned it up, and they want to show off what they've done, so that they can do the year-over-year stuff, and it gets to the year that they started and it says, wow, okay, we're in a lot better shape now. So yeah, we think it's a good way for you guys to reach out in a creative way to the constituency, as well as internally for reporting purposes and just pulling up quick charts and graphs for your sake. It helps both ways there.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? Anyone?
Great. Please tell Treasurer Mandel we said good job, and
Thank you.
Leo,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Anything else we need to work today? Okay. That concludes our informal session. Thanks for joining us. God bless.